breaks free from the page and runs wild through our hearts. I'm Tamara Rockwood. I'm coming at you from beautiful Bay Ridge Island, where the sea whispers secrets and the trees write their own verses in the wind. By day, my husband Ben and I run Bay Ridge Island Press, a haven for poets who aren't afraid to rip open their notebooks and to show you what is beating inside. But we have had a revelation that seeing these words on paper is only half the journey. Poetry needs to be unleashed through the human voice, with all its cracks, crescendos, and raw emotion. And that is the heartbeat of POETICS podcast. Each episode, you'll get front row seats to poets that we have published, performing their work exactly as they intended it to be experienced. And we are talking goosebump moments. Plus, we'll chat about poetry and discover worlds flipped upside down by a perfect stanza or by a devastating line break, because great poetry isn't just something you read. It is something that reads you right back. We'll delve into this weird, wonderful, the hilarious, the heartbreaking. Today we're going to get into epics. Did you know that we published an epic? We sure as hell did. It is on our chapbook collection. It is called Don Orfeo. It's by Ron Searls. We love this. There was an experience in reading this. We're like, where did this come from? It's so wonderful. The verse is so tight. The language is so beautiful. But I cannot tell you, because it is actually Ben Rockwood who championed this to be published. And so he has the honor today of analyzing it. This is going to be a longer podcast, which is not too long. I think podcasts usually go like 90 minutes or so. Usually we try to hit 10 minutes. This is probably going to go maybe a few minutes more. So we're going to have our poet, Ron Searls, read part 1 of his poem. And then I'm going to hand it off to Ben Rockwood. And I'm not going to say any more. You want to hear this. Trust me. Let's get into it. Welcome to POETICS Podcast.
The world is not new. Its seeming solid ground once whirled in empty space, and molten flows congealed to build a planet, then pressure bound into granite mountains, long worn down by blows and shakes and fires into mass-filled lows of newborn earth and fecund sand and soil. It fed the grass and trees and bred the rose, and succored what did from the sea uncoil in the gardens that prefigured all our toil. On beaches old and bank and forest trail, our forebears wandered, walked and waged upright, crossed the very stones that yet prevail upon our own footsteps. If tales rocks could recite of languages and peoples now forlorn, they'd light up forborn pain, dark passion, tease apart unnumbered sacrifices, witness the plight of unknown lovers' troughs, to us impart the long mute history of the human heart. The stones are silent. Muse, give us that voice that we may speak what has been lost. The tale of one Don Orfeo, who by force choice in 1684 made sail to La Florida, to the Spanish Empire's frail outpost in El Norte, San Augustine, to serve as a soldier in the Presidio's detail, how he met there Isabella, and what between them passed, how a terrible fate did intervene. Don Orfeo was thought to be a son of nobility, but not the primal seed, thus disinherited. From Castile he'd spun to make his way, but by his own misdeed, a debt unpaid, must serve by court decreed on this far shore. He took with him one thing, a 10-stringed guitar. He played with speed and grace, taught by the master Guerau, could sing an angel tenor's voice, hard hearts could sting. The Coquino's fort construction had commenced 12 years before, forced by the English threat at Charlestown. Indian labor was dispensed from inland missions. It was this native sweat that raised the unconquerable walls, and in that net of conscription was young Isabella caught, and she was swept to St. Augustine, and was there yet when she heard Don Orfeo sing by the tree where green river and blue sky met at the sea. His voice soared high, low dove his voice, around the scales like a falcon's graceful floating flight. Loud he sang, soft then, his perfect sound made even songbirds still, while with his right hand he plucked an Andalusian delight, his left hand framing fretted falling chords. His words told a Moorish tale of love and night, of champions challenged with lance and curving swords, and ladies stealing fanned glances at their lords. Isabella hushed. Silent she stood, like a fawn surprised, as this alien music poured into her soul, then trembled as she within felt dawn new worlds. She stole away. She left no clue that she had heard. To her own hut withdrew a red reed flute, and began in her own way to echo what within still echoed true, and practice for a month till she could play and rhyme what Don Orfeo strummed that day. She went again where river met sea and sky, where one before began now too. Where he led, she did follow. When she did fly around his notes, he would in tunes pursue. Up, down, up, their rapid fingers flew, until Don Orfeo, unable to resist surmise, stopped his hands. Now hers alone played through, until she gasped, caught. His opened eyes upon her, hers gazed back. Two as one did apprise. Though each could barely understand the tongue each spoke they yet to each, and soon contrived to return each day where he had sung. Each day they played and talked. Sometime the moon chaperoned them. More often, gathered on a dune, Don Orfeo's troop, or people from the town, would listen to their duets, around them strewn like peaches fallen from the fruit tree down, or petals blown off a wayward flower's crown. Don Orfeo, who'd a gift for foreign speech, and could unravel the most complicated sound, soon learned from Isabella. So then each to each could swear what was in a young heart bound. They, after many days of shared songs, found that their two hearts longed as one heart to be. So they gathered all their friends and witness round. By the parish priest were wed. Their love gave free, where green river and blue sky met at the sea. They built a 2-room house on Carlotta Street, with figs and orange and peach trees in the yard, and grew tomatoes, peppers, beans, and neat rows of corn, pumpkins, squash, and chard in a garden plot. Don Orfeo still stood guard on the old fort's walls, and would return each day to the door that Isabella never barred. Then voices would sing, guitar and flute would play, till the moon and stars would wane and fade away. So they lived on until that day in June, when all was changed. Isabella went with Maria, her friend, to the market that afternoon. Then they wandered in the woods. They meant to find some herbs, but as they overbent to pick some sage, were accosted by two Indians, tall, covered with tattoos that sent a chill through Isabella. These she knew, and her heart stopped, afraid what she must do. Isabella, rising with a fierceman, spoke. Arms were raised, hands flattened, fists struck on chest at exclamation points, and then they broke apart. Isabella turned, pulled Maria to her breast. I must go, soft said she. I vest this task in you. Await Don Orfeo's return this evening. To him you must attest that I am gone forever. He must me spurn. Beg him forgive who falsely him did yearn.
Let's talk about Ron Searls' Don Orfeo. I love this piece. When it was submitted to us, I instantly was beside myself. I'm a huge fan of epic poetry, and I love opportunities to see new forms of poetry. And sometimes, in any given art form, new can refer to classic, very old, something that's not, I think, sufficiently appreciated anymore. And so when we first saw Don Orfeo, I just couldn't stop giggling. It was great to see somebody take such an interesting, dare I say, ostentatious idea and then package it the way that he did. By way of summary, Tamara gave me an excellent summary, so I'm going to go ahead and read it for you all. Don Orfeo opens with a sweeping geological and historical preface that establishes the ancient foundations of Florida before introducing us to Don Orfeo, a Spanish soldier exiled to St. Augustine in 1684. Carrying only his 10-string guitar, he meets Isabella, a young indigenous woman conscripted to work on the fort's construction. Their love story unfolds through music, his Spanish guitar and her native flute, creating harmonious duets that bridge their cultural divide. They marry and build a life together until the narrative takes an ominous turn, when Isabella encounters threatening tattooed Indians while gathering herbs, setting up what promises to be the tragic turn typical of the Orpheus myth. Nice summary. I enjoyed that. Couple of things I want to pull out about this. So the first most important thing to me is I just love the form. If you're a fan of the famous Don Juan, no, it's not Don Juan. It is, in fact, Don Juan. Don Juan is a piece that I remember I had avoided for a long time. I thought, the subject is sort of classically known. But I thought, it might just be a little too much. When I read it, though, I was blown away by how hilarious it was. And so that made me a fan of sort of what I'll call the modern epic poem. The other is, of course, in antiquity, almost all stories were poems. In fact, it's actually funny when people will sometimes use Aristotle's or others' quotes about the poet. Of course, in ancient Greek, ancient Roman times, when they referred to the poet, they were really just referring to sort of the author. The two were synonymous. We actually took the name for our journal, POETICS, from Aristotle's Poetics, where he had to spend some time really digging into what is poetry, to just, try and separate it from other forms because it was so interlaced, I think, particularly at the time. Anyway, to see a return to form, and not just a return to form, but such a strong return to form, was really exciting. And then to put that in the context of a North American, incarnation of the Orpheus myth, it's definitely worth your time. inside the actual language itself, he was really, I think, very bold with regards to the way that he approached this. When I write something, I have a tendency to be a little fanciful about the what I'm writing. I think that, it's going to be read from on high and everyone will love my incredible turn of phrase. And rarely is that true for most of us when we write things. But here, he really let go, and it's really appropriate, right? It's not overhanded. I just wanted to read a little bit from. We just heard from Ron himself, but I want to read a little bit from part 2, The Search. So this is just the first stanza. Isabella, rising, with the fierce men spoke. Arms were raised, hands flattened, fists struck on chest in exclamation points, and then they broke apart. Isabella turned, pulled Maria to her breast. I must go, softly she said. I vest this task in you. Await Don Orfeo's return this evening. To him, you must attest that I am gone forever. He must me spurn. Beg him forgive who falsely him did yearn. In so many contexts, if you were to write like that, it would just be over the top and ridiculous. But here, it's 100% appropriate. It's just so beautiful. I really feel like Ron was really audacious in what he was trying to do. And the thing is he did it. He pulled it off perfectly. The whole thing is fun. It flows exceptionally well. His word choices were really great. I will admit there's a couple of things here I had to look up. But, on the other side, I will say that one of the things that frustrated me for many, many years as a reader is, let me step back for a second. When I was in high school, I was the kind of person who sort of skimmed the book and did just enough for the test. And when I was a younger man, I would pride myself on, I only read nonfiction. I'm a very serious fellow. And it wasn't really until, I got closer to, my late 30s that I realized I'd missed out on so much. And so I started reading. And of course, one of the things that quickly frustrated me is how many authors would invoke Greek myth, Roman myth. And a lot of times what frustrated me is you would feel dumb. Like if you didn't know the myth, there was a sense of just like everyone's supposed to know all these myths. So we all know how smart you are. Lots and lots of pieces that would like to harken back to that. And so I became very sensitive to something that maybe was enjoyable to read, but you were less of a reader if you didn't have the context of that story. And I have a great appreciation for works like Don Orfeo that have the ability to actually draw on those myths and extend those myths, but not in a way that requires that you have an intimate knowledge of the source material that he's drawing on. So you don't need to know anything about the Orpheus myth, and you can absolutely enjoy this piece. You're not missing anything. You're going to get everything that you need from the piece itself. And I deeply, deeply appreciate that. Now, of course, if you have more experience with Greek mythology, you can bring all those elements in and it will enrich it all that much more. But it's not necessary, which is to say, Ron here is really telling a great story that has some inspiration, but he's not trying to flex that he knows Greek mythology better than you know Greek mythology. And you know what I mean? As a reader, whenever you see an author sometimes sort of like intellectually flex, look how great I am, look how much I know. Well, good for you. I'm just trying to read a story and enjoy myself. So everything that you need is here. The language is beautiful. It stands very much on its own, and it's a delight to read. So I hope that if you haven't read Don Orfeo, I encourage you to give it a shot. And just enjoy the ride. There's words you're going to have to look up, and that's okay. It's a fun ride. It's an interesting ride, and it's moreover, great to know that authors in the world exist that can write pieces like this for all of us to enjoy in this modern time. So please, please go read it, enjoy it, and all my respect to Ron for writing something really, really remarkable and sharing it with the world.
That is it. Was that wonderful? It is wonderful. I love this poem. Please find it. It is on BainbridgeIslandPress.com. It is under chapbooks. It is called Don Orfeo. It's by Ron Searls. It's $5. There's no excuse not to read this. It's lovely. I hope that you enjoyed listening to it with us. So, if you've enjoyed diving into the world of verse with us, please join us next time. We've got more poets to meet, more poems to explore, and more literary adventures to share. Until then, keep reading, keep writing, and keep poetry close to your heart. Thank you for joining POETICS Podcast, where we bring poetry to life, one verse at a time.